Hey everyone, it's Hamish from the Young Investors Podcast. Myself and Brandon are excited to bring you your weekly rundown of the latest business and investing news from around the world. A quick reminder before we get started, any advice provided by Brandon is general and does not consider your financial situation, needs, or objectives, so consider whether it's appropriate for you. Brandon van der Kolk is authorised to provide general financial product advice in Australia and is authorised representative number 1305795 of Guideway Financial Services Proprietary Limited, AFSL number 420367. Please see the description box for Brandon's financial services guide. Past performance is not a reliable indication of future investment returns. But with that said, let's get into another episode of the Young Investors Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back. We are back yet again. Welcome to this week's podcast. Welcome, Hamish Hodder. What's going on, my friend?
What's going on? Not much. I'm doing well. How are you doing over there? How's sunny Canberra? Is it sunny at the moment?
Sunny Canberra. Sunny Canberra's not so sunny. No. JJ's gone up to the Gold Coast because he wanted some sunny.
Right. Okay.
And he got some sunny. So he's headed up there. He actually just sent me a picture before of him sitting on a beach at the Gold Coast with nice clear sunshine.
Wouldn't that be nice?
I'm a bit envious. But yeah, I'm doing well. I'm currently also Tash has buggered off, so she's gone back to Perth. So I'm literally just sitting here by myself. No, not quite. I've still got Stephen with me. But yeah, I've got a week by myself, which doesn't happen very often. I kind of just realised that I don't do very much.
Fair enough.
I work and then I don't do anything.
No, yeah, it's so true. No, it's funny. Every year, I think I tell myself I'm going to move like somewhere sunny during the winter because I really, really don't like cold weather. But I never do it, so it's my own fault. But I should do it. I should be in the Gold Coast.
Yeah, I feel that at this time of year, in the middle of the year, because Canberra is just so flipping cold. When you wake up in the morning, it's like -2, and it's just not a great time. But anyway, we got some news to talk about, Hamish. Boy, do we have some news to talk about. What are you talking about today?
We have some very, very good US inflation news that we can kind of go through. And I also had a story talking about Walmart is the latest company to be pushing electronic pricing tags. So there's some interesting things to kind of talk about whether it's actually a good thing or not for consumers.
Yeah, and then what am I talking about? I'm talking about this new Galaxy ring, Samsung's new smart ring, which was announced just the other day, and also Boeing. Boeing finally getting in admitting to a little bit of wrongdoing after all of the wrongdoing.
Oops.
Yeah, oopsie daisy. So we'll talk about that as well.
Awesome. Well, with that said, today's episode is brought to you by Seeking Alpha, your one-stop shop for stock analysis, market data, and news. Access expert analysis and news for thousands of stocks. View buy, hold, and sell ratings from members, Wall Street analysts, and Seeking Alpha's own algorithm. Screen for stocks using a variety of fundamental and technical analysis metrics. Access 10 years of financial data and company filings. And manage your portfolio by tracking your investments with price alerts so you never miss a buying opportunity again. Click the link in the episode description or head directly to seekingalpha.me/young investors to try Seeking Alpha free for 7 days. I feel like we should start with this Boeing story because this is it's a pretty big milestone in the whole Boeing shenanigans that's been going on for a couple of years now, really. So yeah, tell us what's been happening.
Yeah, Boeing is obviously in a lot of hot water over, there's too many to count now. I was going to say the one where the door blew off and the one where it killed all the people because the navigation just keeps going on. There's like 5, 6, 7 things. But yeah, amid an ongoing safety and trust crisis spurred by a series of near disasters earlier this year, Boeing has pleaded guilty to a felony charge of conspiring to defraud the federal government in a case tied to 2 737 MAX crashes in 2018 and 2019 that killed 346 people, dodging a potentially embarrassing trial in the process. Still, not everyone is so sure the felony label will bring accountability or consequences, not with the US government so deeply reliant on the company. So this is dating back to the stuff that happened ages ago.
Yeah.
But they are admitting that they did a naughty and they are copping a fine. So they're going to pay up to $487 million in fines, which is actually a fraction of the $24.8 billion that the families of the crash victims wanted the aircraft maker to pay. The families of victims of 2 fatal crashes of the 737 MAX oppose the deal, the department said. So yes, back in 2021, the aerospace giant avoided prosecution of a fraud charge linked to the fatal crashes by entering a settlement with the Department of Justice. So as a part of the deal, the company agreed to establish new safety and compliance programs, but in May, the DOJ accused Boeing of failing to fulfill such promises and misleading and defrauding federal regulators in the process. Boeing has placed the blame on 2 low-level employees, just if you wanted to know. So under the guilty plea deal announced in a court filing late Sunday night, the DOJ will appoint a third-party monitor to track Boeing's safety compliance for a period of 3 years. It will also require the firm to invest $455 million into safety and compliance and pay the $243 million fine. So that is identical to the fine that Boeing paid in the 2021 settlement that it violated.
Jeez.
So it's not a great look for Boeing. Not a great look for them.
You know when they just plead guilty to criminal charges and they want to avoid the trial, you know that it must be pretty bad. Like that doesn't happen very often. Usually companies will go to any length to fight everything through the courts and drag everything out as long as possible. So the fact that they're like, yep, we did it, let's just stop talking about it, means that I'm sure it would have been very, very bad for them, what's been happening kind of behind the scenes.
Shucks. Guys, we did do an oopsie, and we're really, really sorry.
Yeah, it's not it's not a great look. I mean, they killed 2 full plane loads of people. And then they make a deal with the government to put in place compliance, and they can't even do that. Like, they can't even... like, it's one thing that they made a plane that killed... How many people was it? It was like 346.
346, I think.
So they killed 346 people with the planes that they made. And then to get out of, like, the criminal charges, they just had to put in some safety and compliance, and they couldn't even do that. Like, it is insane. And then, as you said, to add the complexity of the fact that they have this strong business relationship with the US government adds this kind of strange element of they're kind of getting prosecuted and investigated by one of their customers. Where there's both of them benefit from, a multi-billion-dollar relationship. So it's very odd.
It is, isn't it?
It's bizarre.
It's some might say there's some conflicts of interest, Hamish.
Yep.
You can definitely bet the families of the victims were not satisfied with this.
No.
Said one of their attorneys. It says this sweetheart deal fails to recognize that because of Boeing's conspiracy, 346 people died. Fair.
Yeah.
So the families of the victims are not very happy, but you're exactly right, Hamish. The reason that this kind of gets died down or gets swept under the carpet a little bit is because of the business. Interestingly, there are some statutes of law in place that bar defense contractors with felony convictions from winning future contracts. So this could mean that the charge could jeopardize Boeing's status as a key government contractor, which would obviously be a crushing blow because last year government contracts accounted for nearly 40% of Boeing's revenue.
Wow.
So that would be a really big blow for Boeing. But then again, it's exactly what you're talking about, right? They're pretty close with the government. It says Boeing's relationship with the Pentagon and other federal agencies may be symbiotic enough to keep it in the government's good graces. At least plenty of experts seem to think so. For example, quote, for high-profile companies like Boeing, where there are few alternatives and a significant need for their products, the government is unlikely to impose an outright ban. Jason Brown, former special agent and legal advisor for the FBI and current senior litigator at prominent whistleblower law firm Brown LLC, told the Daily Upside. Calling for accountability in the form of lost contracts is a hopeless dead end. Columbia University law professor John Coffey recently told the Seattle Times, adding that, quote, the government does not have an alternative to Boeing.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
It's exactly what you're talking about, Hamish. You absolutely hit the nail on the head. This stuff might be being suppressed or just like kind of swept under the carpet a little bit because Boeing is the US government is so reliant on Boeing's services that they might be letting them off lightly.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think I've said this before, but it's like, how many people do they have to, like, what's the number? How many people do they have to kill before, like, and then, it's just mind-blowing to me, that this whole story, because this is what, 2018, 2019, and, you know, all of this is kind of coming up again because, you know, a door blew off that, what was it, the Alaskan airline flight, I think, and then you had a wheel fall off last week. And there's all kinds of things happening still, and I think the Max plane, I think, was still that specific plane, I think, was still having issues, as well. So, you know, it is bizarre. It's like all these businesses have no other choice. Airlines, the government, no one really has that much choice. They kind of have to. They're kind of beholden to Boeing because there's not really that much competition. And so everyone's like, well, this is bad, but we're not going to, you know, we're still going to be doing business. We're still going to be doing business with them. So it's very odd.
The last stat I have here, trade publication Defense News recently ranked Boeing as the world's 5th largest defense contractor. The Department of Defense, meanwhile, paid Boeing nearly $15 billion in contracts in 2022,
wow, according
to the Congressional Research Service. So, yeah. Watch this space, but might be the case that Boeing gets off rather lightly, but we shall see. All right, Hamish, over to you. We got some inflation news yesterday, and I haven't looked into it because I wanted to save it for the podcast, but the headlines seem to be reasonably positive.
Yeah, it's US inflation has been very, very good the last few months, continually improving, and this month in particular was exceptionally good. So we got the June 2024 Consumer Price Index release, and prices rose just 3% in the last 12 months compared to the 3.3% recorded last month. So again, continuing the kind of 12-month annual figure has continued to kind of fall, and it's fallen in a meaningful way because in the month of June, prices not only did they not rise a lot, they actually fell. There was actually deflation in the month of June 2024. Prices falling 0.1% throughout the month, and that reflects a continued slowdown in that monthly monthly inflation figure since I think March was where it was kind of peaking.
Wow, there you go. Well, that's very positive for them.
Yeah, exactly. As we've kind of said recently, the story for US inflation has been very positive. Core CPI, which strips out some of the volatile food and energy categories, was also very good, rising 3.3% annually compared to 3.4% recorded in the month before, and only up 0.1% in the month of June. So headline inflation and core inflation are both coming in very, very good for the US. In terms of the biggest contributors, so this is on a month-over-month basis, so just in June, the biggest rise was utility gas, actually rose 2.4%, so that's a pretty significant increase. But everything else was very, very tame. Shelter, so rent and house cost of housing rose 0.2%, and food rose 0.2%, and then pretty much everything else was falling. So you had gasoline down 3.8% in the month. You had fuel oil down 2.4%. Electricity was down 0.7%. And a couple of other big categories. Used cars was down 1.5%. And transport down 0.4%.
All right. That's very impressive. That's quite a few major categories going down quite substantially.
Yeah. So, I mean, certainly in the last few months, the big story has been energy. So, particularly oil has been kind of coming down in price, and that's kind of pulled down the energy category. But yeah, even in the core CPI figure, most major categories are either very, very slow or also in deflation in June of 2024. There's a couple of reasons you can kind of point to, I think, as to why there's been this slowdown, not just this month, but also kind of the last couple of months with US inflation. The first is something that Jerome Powell said just a few weeks ago, which was around the labor market. So again, we've heard him say this before, but He basically has been saying that the labour market has been easing, and therefore that's reducing the inflation pressure. So wages essentially have been growing at a slower rate throughout the year, and that eases the price rises, particularly for service industries where a large part of their costs is labour.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Service-based businesses have had a little bit stickier inflation because of the wages being a large piece of their costs compared to consumer kind of goods businesses. But probably a bigger contributor, I would say, or at least it seems to be, that in the slowdown in inflation, is that we might finally be seeing the lagged rental data appear in the CPI. So this is something I think we spoke about this maybe a few months back.
Might need a refresher.
But basically, we certainly haven't spoken about it recently. But essentially, rent in the consumer price index is calculated based on outstanding leases, not the current spot price for rent. So essentially, they look at all of the leases that are currently being held by people, and that's how they decide what the price of rent is, which of course is different to what the current rent kind of spot price is, because people sign leases for 12 months or 24 months, right? So the actual, essentially the price of rent in the CPI is a lagged indicator to what the actual price of rent is. And so
that makes sense.
Essentially for the past few months, the actual spot price of rent the rent increases have slowed down. And so there was this anticipation that would then be reflected in the CPI right about now. And so that is certainly, I think, a large contributing factor, because shelter, which is largely made up of rent changes, is about 30% of the overall CPI figure. So what happens with the cost of shelter, which is, rent and then homeowners equivalency, which we won't get into that, but obviously the cost of shelter overall is a major impactor to the overall inflation figure, and so this is somewhat anticipated. It at least seems.
Right. So this was kind of already happening, but we just didn't see it in the numbers until now.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it was still kind of speculated. Like no one knows anything for sure. But it was kind of some economists thought that this might be the case. Keeping in mind that, of course, things with the CPI and inflation can change very, very quickly. So it's just another point on the graph that we can say. But it is positive news for sure, and it certainly reignites, I think, a bit of hope that the Fed will cut rates at least once this year. So I guess we'll see. The next meeting, I think, is later this month, I believe, and then there's one in September, I think. So we'll have to keep an eye out for those.
What do you reckon? Yay or nay?
I don't think they'll cut. I mean, I have no idea, but I don't think they'll cut in the next meeting. But it's possible that they cut in September. If I think the inflation story continues the way it has.
Yeah, I doubt. I agree with you. I doubt, from what Jerome's been saying recently, that that they're getting particularly close to a rate cut. But you never know.
Yeah,
we shall see.
We shall see,
Hamish.
What have we got? Tell me about Samsung.
All right. You want a smart ring, Hamish?
Yes.
You got one. Yes, said no one ever. Well, guess what? I feel like they're going to run out of wearables. Like how many more things? I mean, smart t-shirts, is that what's next? Smart shoes? Like
Brandon, you're not thinking big enough, okay? Smart watches, right? How many wrists do you have? You have 2 wrists. How many fingers do you have? You have 10 fingers.
Oh my gosh.
That's
I'm going to have a ring for each finger.
That's 5 times
wow.
the products that can be sold for each customer.
Yeah.
That's a big that's a $35 billion unit global market for smart rings.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, I've just got a notification on my phone. Oh, my pinky heart rate is slightly different to my thumb heart rate, and apparently I'm going to die. It'll get to that point. Oh man, surely we're running out of wearables. We got to chuck these microchips into everything. Boost up that microchip industry, I tell you, Hamish. But yes, Samsung launched the Galaxy Ring on Wednesday. Its first foray into smart rings. The South Korean tech giant is looking to integrate its products, such as smartphones and wearables, and offer health tracking features to rival Apple's push into the space. So what is it? It is a lightweight ring equipped with sensors designed for health monitoring 24 hours a day, the company said at its Galaxy Unpacked event on Wednesday in Paris. So let's talk about some of these features, and also I'll leave you hanging for the price for a little while because it's up there. It's up there. So what can the Samsung Galaxy Ring do? Well, it can monitor the following things, Hamish. It can monitor sleep. The device can monitor a person's movement during sleep, sleep latency, heart and respiratory rate, and give analysis of the quality of sleep. I don't know how they measure respiratory rate through your finger. That's just like how many breaths you take in a minute. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't quite know how they do that, but okay. Hamish, an important one for you, it can measure your menstrual cycle.
Oh, thank God.
Samsung says it uses skin temperature to track a person's menstrual cycle.
Excellent.
It can also obviously do heart rate, so the Galaxy Ring can inform users when their heart rate is unusually high or low. Users can also check their heart rate in real time. And then for exercise, the Galaxy Ring can detect the kind of workout or activity a person is doing. That's questionable for a ring.
The kind of workout.
You've seen those memes of like Apple thinking that you're going for a run at 12:30 a.m. Oh, sorry. That's got to get my mind out of the gutter for that one, but that's quite funny.
Let's hope it doesn't track that.
Well, I guess you're going to have to wear it on your left hand, Hamish.
Yeah. That was a short workout.
Oh, gosh.
Anyway.
Oh, geez, we do need to get our mind out of the gutter, Hamish.
No, but
guess what?
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Go
Oh, no, what? Do you have more to add on that?
I was just going to say, we are making jokes about these rings, but I actually kind of think it could be good. I've actually always wanted to get one of these kind of sleep tracking rings because my sleep is horrendous, and I feel like it would be. It's kind of. I'm not a real kind of smart watch kind of person. I'm not one to wear something like that, but like a ring that like you kind of don't even notice is there. I actually might participate in this to try and fix my sleep.
You want that external device to tell you that your sleep is terrible.
Yeah.
Wake up in the morning, my sleep was horrendous.
Yeah.
Huh, okay, there you go.
Yeah, Hamish, you're not good at this.
Hamish, we recommend you turning off XQC now to get the best quality sleep.
Yeah. Maybe just don't try to sleep.
Dear,
you're just not very good at it.
Yeah, I think I'd be keen as well. I read a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know if it's still like this, but I read a whole bunch of stuff saying that that the one thing that smartwatches and these things are not actually good at is the accuracy of their sleep measurements. It sounds like the error is quite high.
Right.
Like it's more of a guesstimate as opposed to, because they're always like, you slept for 8 hours and 13 minutes and 24 seconds.
Yeah.
And apparently the range of error in that is like huge. But
yeah.
it's still probably a good thing, but yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
But in terms of the Galaxy Ring, Hamish, it weighs between 2.3 and 3 grams depending on what size you buy. So it's not going to be a particularly heavy thing. Then again, I don't know how much rings are normally, but if they're made of gold, they'd be pretty heavy, I guess.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be 3 grams, I don't think. They'd be heavier than that. The device comes in 3 colors, and this is the thing that I was thinking when I see that this ring is tiny and it weighs between 2.3 and 3 grams. I'm like, surely, how do they fit a battery in that? Like, how do they do that? And what is the capacity of this battery? Like, because this product would be useless if it just burns out after a few hours.
Yeah.
Because it's tiny, right?
Yeah.
Like, even a watch, you can fit like a decent battery in it. But this thing is like next level small. It's it's a ring.
Yeah.
But apparently, Samsung says the Galaxy Ring's battery can last up to 7 days.
Okay.
Which is actually pretty insane.
Yeah.
And there's also, so just like we've got with AirPods, they have a portable battery case that you just flip open, slot it in, shut it, and that'll recharge your ring, so you can recharge it on the go if you would like. So
there you go.
Pretty cool. But price-wise, Hamish, it's
it's expensive.
It's pretty expensive. It's $400 USD.
Yeah, that's a lot
for a Galaxy Ring.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
$400 USD.
I think that's pretty comparable to some of the other like Aura Ring and what's the other one?
That's
Ultra.
the big competitor.
Yeah, Aura I think is like the kind of the industry standard for that kind of thing. But I think their rings are probably about that much. I think maybe even a little bit more. Maybe like 600 US or 500 US or something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's in the ballpark, but yeah, it's not a cheap accessory, that's for sure.
Oh, apparently starting at 300 USD. But starting at, maybe they got more expensive versions.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
So would you fork out 400 US for a smart ring to test it out, do you reckon?
Probably not. I don't know. Maybe. I'd have to... Maybe.
It's not worth that much to you?
No. I mean, I've thought about I looked at Aura rings for maybe back from like 2020. So like I've always been...
Okay.
And I think probably the price is like, yeah, it is a lot. And you'd want to know that you're getting value out of it, that it's actually effective at tracking, what you want. So I guess I'll maybe for Christmas, I'll buy myself a Christmas present.
Oh, I thought you were going to put that on me. I thought you were going to... Maybe for Christmas, if you want to get me a Christmas present.
You can...
I thought you were very quickly switching that on me. Maybe if you wanted to get it for me for Christmas.
Yeah. No big deal.
Well, Hamish, do you know I want a boat for Christmas? Just keep one-upping each other.
Very small boat.
Anyway, so that's all I've got for the smart ring, the Galaxy ring, rather. Interesting idea. I do think it's a little bit... I don't know. For me, I don't think I'd wear one. Maybe. I just feel like we're trying to put semiconductors in literally everything right now.
Yeah.
Big semiconductors really taking a hold of the wearable industry.
Yeah.
It's like, fast forward 10 years, are we going to have like semiconductors in like our shirt pockets? Like what's going to happen? Like how is it's going to give us body temperature, core temperature or something like that in our jackets or something?
Probably,
like that?
Yeah.
Like put one in the shoe, measure our, I don't know, foot strike and heel off and all sorts of gait things. Yeah. Who knows? Probably.
Yeah.
Did I just think of like the next multi-billion-dollar product?
Maybe. Better get working on that.
Quick, I better submit this patent before the podcast comes out.
Well, speaking of pricing, terrible segue. But
speaking of technology being used in ways that it doesn't need to be,
way better segue. Walmart is the latest company to announce plans to replace price stickers in aisles with electronic shelf labels. Dun dun dun. So I mean, if you've worked, I'm sure a lot of people have probably worked retail at some point. You've probably done some kind of price changing. I know I certainly did my fair share of this at good old Woolworths. And it's not a particularly long task. I was kind of thinking back. Did I spend a lot of time doing price changes? But it wasn't really a particularly long task. I mean, it was like, there was sometimes, manually printing off the tickers and doing kind of daily. There was some daily price changes, but mostly it was weekly. Like there'd be like a weekly sale or something.
Right.
And then doing like markdowns. So like when products get near expiry, you would mark down their prices so they would sell before expiry. But right. it's not as if it's not really, as far as I remember, a task that was kind of a major labor cost, I guess, for retailers. But digital price tags aim to reduce that to basically zero. So by 2026, Walmart has announced plans to use electronic tags in 2,300 of their general merchandise locations. Right.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. So yeah, they want to use these everywhere. Understandably, I think there's quite mixed feelings about this. I think the main kind of concern from a consumer perspective is that electronic price tags, of course, make surge pricing at grocery stores possible. So, I mean, we're all very familiar with Uber's surge pricing. You're trying to leave a concert or a football game or something, and it's impossible to get an Uber because you look at it and it's like $300 for a 10-minute drive or something. But more and more we've had, or we're seeing different companies trying to figure out whether they can also apply the same thing to their business. And maybe the most recent egregious example of this was, do you remember that story about Wendy's, the fast food restaurant in the US, wanting to surge price their burgers during lunch rush?
During lunchtime.
Yeah.
That didn't go well for them.
No, it didn't. There's just some businesses where this idea just sounds absolutely ridiculous. And I think for grocery stores, it also gives me the same feeling of just, there's just something not quite right about that.
Particularly in Australia, because our grocery store options are so limited. It's basically a duopoly in Australia between Woolworths and Coles. There are two main chains. There's been a lot of criticism over price gouging. Like, I know we've seen a lot of inflation over the last few years, so it's expected that prices go up. But a lot of Australians have really pointed the finger at Coles and Woolworths for price gouging and for trying to extract every single last cent they can out of each, kind of going above and beyond inflation in charging people for the prices at the grocery stores. So this is kind of already, we can see this as potentially enable. Like, I look at this and my mind always just goes to the extreme. Like, because if you have an electronic tag system, you know how, like, in the airport, Hamish, there was the Amazon things where it was just like following you around and you just left and it kind of knew what you had bought just by looking at you in the store. Because I'm like thinking, what's the extreme of this? If they see like someone walking into Woolies, because you know how you always see yourself on the TV when you walk into the grocery store, you're like, hello, it's me, on the TV, because they watch you come in on the camera. Yeah. I'm like, what if they do dynamic pricing based on what they think you do? Like, if you walk in a suit, and you walk down the bread aisle and then you look to the bread, does AI just like automatically tick up the price of the bread loaves as you're looking down at it? Because they think that you have a higher income. It's like, I don't know, that would be like the absolute extreme. But you're right, it does. Like, imagine this system with the digital price tags, and you go in on, the 23rd of December and then the 24th of December. Yeah. It's like the 24th of December is going to be like, the price is going to be massive. Or like like before Easter, before the shops kind of close for a couple of days. Yeah. It's the surge pricing could be wild. So I don't know, Hamish. I don't know about this. It definitely, we're not saying they're going to do it. No. But it now gives them the option to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Check out what this, so there was in one of the articles I was reading, there was a quote from a grocery industry analyst, Phil Lempert. Check out what he said. He said, if it's hot outside, we can raise the price of water and ice cream. And
come on.
There's just something so sinister about that. Like the idea that, there's a heat wave today. People are coming in and they need
ice
water.
Creams, water.
Put it up. Put the price up.
Oh man, you look really thirsty.
Yeah, they've got like you said, like they've got cameras. They can just tell that you're dehydrated. Like they can measure it somehow. They've got access to your Aura, your Samsung Ring data.
No!
This guy's dehydrated. He's got heat stroke, so he's gonna pay twice. He's gonna pay double.
It's cheaper than a hospital trip. What you gonna do?
Yeah, which is it?
Come on, Derek. Do you want that water?
Faint or $12 for a glass of water?
Oh dear, Hamish.
But I thought that quote was funny. The rest of the quote kind of makes sense to me. He said, if there's something close to expiration date, you can lower the price, which is obviously something that is manually done by retailers at the moment. And yeah, I agree. I mean, that's probably the one kind of small kind of positive you can pull from this, which is it does reduce some level of unnecessary work. Like, it is kind of unnecessary that someone needs to go beep, 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 print out a label and stick it on the thing. But it's a very small amount of work that you're reducing. And as you said, it kind of exposes, or it opens up the door to this whole surge pricing thing becoming a norm. The other one thing I would say is maybe an argument on the other side, although I don't know if this is an argument on the other side, but for a very large amount of the shopping that we already do, which is online, this is already a reality, but it's just kind of it just doesn't feel the same as like a physical retailer doing it. But what you were describing before about like the guy in the suit coming in and then the price of bread changes, that exists online. Like, if you're getting targeted with ads, one of the main ways that businesses can like kind of filter the demographic of who they target is by how much you use your credit card through like Chrome, for example. Like that's a way you can target people who are big credit card spenders. You can do this on Facebook ads and you can do it on Google ads. And so that's a real thing. Like, what you described is a real thing. It's not a man in a suit, but it's someone who spends a lot online, and you can target them and run, promotions with less discounts at them. And you can send them to a landing page that has a different price than someone else is going to get. And so I'm not saying this is an argument in the other direction, but I think this already exists in a meaningful way. It's just
people don't really. It's not really in your face.
Exactly.
It's kind of
it's more in your face when Wendy's says
it's behind the curtain.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you showing up to like the drive-through and the price of a burger goes up 30% because there's someone in front of you. Like, that is like very much in your face compared to seeing something online, and you don't even think about the fact that. Yeah, I mean, it's just a price on a digital screen. Like, it could have been 50% more 10 seconds ago, and you wouldn't know. So I think this is just the world kind of we're moving into, and it's not good in some ways. It is good in some ways, but it is
I
certainly.
Don't like it, Hamish.
No, I don't like it either. But it's certainly the world where we're moving into. I think surge pricing on things is going to be completely normal, unfortunately.
Do you see that Reddit post recently of the person that was at the Burger King kiosk?
No.
Ordering Burger King? So they're ordering just some Burger King at one of those kiosks, and then they go to check out on the kiosk, and during that process, at the end, it says, oh, by the way, some of the items in your order have had a price change, and their order got more expensive before they paid by, I can't remember, I think it was like only 30 cents or something like that. But still, the principle of it was that the kiosk actually came up and said, oh, the prices of some of the things in your order have now changed.
Yeah.
And then it was more expensive for them if they wanted to purchase it by 30 cents. But the crazy thing is that they posted this on Reddit and it got a whole bunch of traction. And Burger King had to come out and say, oh, we don't do surge pricing. This was a technical error.
Yeah.
But the question that people have is, normally if you run into a technical error on the web, what happens? You get thrown like a 404, right? It's like the page doesn't exist or something. And you're like, oh, that's an obvious error.
Yeah.
In this case, on the Burger King kiosk, they had a full UI and everything for this exact thing.
They built it.
For this exact situation.
Yeah.
And then Burger King have literally come out and said, oh, this was a technical error and we're working very hard to make sure it doesn't happen again. They have built the UI for that process.
Yeah. The other thing as well is, surge. I don't really understand the concept at all of surge pricing at fast food restaurants really at all, because the surge pricing for Ubers kind of makes sense because there is a limited supply. Like, it doesn't matter what, if Uber doesn't do surge pricing, you won't get an Uber. The surge pricing just reflects, your ability to bid the prices higher if you really value that Uber, if you really need that Uber, which you can have your gripes with that. That's one thing. But at a fast food restaurant, there's no supply constraint. Like, there is a time element, but even if it's really, really busy, you're still getting your food pretty quickly. And it's not like you're paying to go up in the queue.
Yeah.
But there's no supply constraint. It's not like they're running out of burgers. It's not like, oh, we've got a limited supply of a Whopper burger, so therefore, you have to pay a little bit more. there's not really
Yeah.
the surge pricing it doesn't really make any sense in that environment compared to Uber, where there really is a kind of a supply constraint.
It's an interesting world we're going into, Hamish. It's a very interesting world.
Yeah, sure is.
I don't know how I feel about it all, but it's only going to get worse. Like, there's no way we're avoiding it.
No,
it's like the subscription. You know how nothing used to be a subscription?
Yeah.
We used to just pay. Like, if you wanted to use Photoshop or some of Adobe's Pro, you just pay. You just buy it. Like, then you'd have it on your computer forever. And everything slowly turned into a subscription model. And now, literally, every business is just targeting a subscription model, monthly subscription. It's like that never used to happen. Now it happens with literally everything.
Yeah.
That was one big change, and I'm sure this will just be the same thing. Variable pricing.
Yeah.
No one used to do variable pricing. It used to be the same price for everyone.
Yep.
And then fast forward 10 years. Variable pricing's, of course I'm going to pay more or less than Stephen over there or you down in Melbourne, of course.
Yeah.
It'll just become a new normal.
Yeah.
And the corporations will go, we got them.
Yep. So
Anyway.
if you want to paddle pop on a hot
all
day, don't even think about it. That's the bottom line.
Bring your own paddle pops.
Yep. Make your own.
What you have to do is you have to buy your paddle pops in the middle of winter, keep them in the freezer, and then take them with you for the summertime. That's what you're gonna have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna have to get them when they're cheap.
Yeah.
Exactly, to avoid the surge pricing. Yeah.
Genius.
You're gonna have to buy your lunch at 3 a.m, and then hold it, keep it in the fridge until it's lunchtime, and then you're gonna have to go and put your burger in the, I don't know, in the cheese melt or something like that, in the toasty cheese maker. I don't know.
Yep.
We're talking trash. Is that all we got to talk about?
That's all we got. Yep, that's it.
I think that's everything, Hamish, is it not? We've talked about CPI, we've talked about the pricing wars, we've talked about the smart ring, we've talked about Boeing.
That's it.
Yeah, we spoke about Boeing first. Yeah. There you go. All right. That is us done, Hamish. Any final thoughts for the viewers?
No, you already got my final thoughts. Don't buy paddle pops on a hot day.
I listened to this. I think I've told you this story before.
Yeah.
I listened to this Formula One podcast, and there's 2 guys that host it. And the way the guy finishes it every time is he just throws his co-host on the spot and just says, "All right, what are your final thoughts?"
Yeah. You can't throw me.
And then the other guy's just like,
yeah, cool.
Okay.
Nice, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Stock market. Good. Goes up over time.
Yep.
Make money. Enjoy. All right. We're going to bounce out of here. Thanks, guys, for listening. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, if you like the podcast, please rate us 5 stars, do all the good things, leave a like and leave a comment. And with that said, we will see you guys in the next episode. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.